Well, what is going on? You have found the Samplers podcast at thedaydreamsound.com, a podcast dealing with all things samplers. This is episode 5, covering the topic of, well, it's not really a topic, it's a reality. And when it comes to making music, it is not the gear, it's you. And that is the title of this week's podcast. But before we get on to that, I'd like to thank you for joining us here at thedaydreamsound.com. It's a pleasure to have you here. And with that, let's get on to it. Now, the common school of thought when it comes to using different samplers is that each sampler can make you make music in different ways, which runs into the conclusion that states that you need different gear to develop different styles, making you a holistic producer. And I'd like to challenge that and state that it's not the gear at all. It's you. And while it is true that samplers do make you work differently, there is a reason why. No two samplers are alike. And because of this, as users, we adapt to the layout of the sampler that we're using so that we can reach our creative goal. And because we've adapted and changed, our end creative goal may sound different on a different sampler than we're initially accustomed to. So the question is, was it a sampler that made the music sound different? Or was it you? What if we didn't need a sampler to create music the way we saw fit in our head, and somehow by stretch of technology we had the capability to just create without an instrument to interact with? If that was the case, would our creative style be the same because there would be nothing external to affect us? If this is the case, then yes, a specific sampler would be the cause of making us work differently, therefore making us create different styles. And if it isn't, then it is actually us as creative artists that are inherently capable of changing our own styles as we so choose. And following further, if this is the case, we're also able to create situations to adapt to without the need of external equipment. And the good thing is that this is actually true. And this is what makes creative people on a whole so amazing. They can create completely without external influence if needed. And we've seen this throughout our lives. This is why children just seem to make up little songs out of nowhere. With no influence, they make up lyrics, they make up anything they can completely out of their imagination. Because the true seat of creativity is the human mind. And gear, in this case a sampler, is just a roadblock. And because creative people are so ingenious, they take that roadblock and exploit it for their creative purpose. So how did we get to this point where we actually feel that various amounts of gear is needed to spark our creative consciousness? And to be honest, I'm not really sure. And while I love new advancements in music technology, make no mistake, we have been made to feel that we need more and more equipment to be relevant and to stay creative. This is often a self-imposed thought process, which would be okay. There's nothing wrong with buying lots of equipment. None at all. But, unfortunately, the downside is this. A dependence on gear as a source of creativity diminishes our natural ability to use our mind to create. And this is a theme that we experience throughout life, packaged nicely in the statement that goes like this: if you don't use it, you lose it. When we exchange our internal resources for the external, eventually and slowly, we lose that internal creative spark. And when that spark is gone, just like a drug addict, we'll find ourselves jumping from sampler to sampler, chasing a creative ghost that doesn't exist. Thank you for listening. Your presence with us today was completely appreciated. This concludes episode 5 of the Samplers podcast. We'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourself. Peace.